It has been more than 260 days since the USS Lincoln deployed to sea. What started as a routine mission in November was redirected to the Middle East over the war with Iran earlier this year. Now, families of those on board are confronting Navy leaders about food shortages, water contamination, and declining mental health. Declining health, by the way, that has gotten so bad that there are multiple reports of sailors trying to jump overboard. In an exclusive interview with MS Now, the wife of a sailor who did jump off the ship earlier this month says her husband told leadership that he was struggling, but that was brushed off. She also says the Navy did not tell her until 4 days after the incident. A Navy spokesperson told MS Now in part, quote, "We have not observed an increase in suicidal ideations aboard the ship." Joining us, MS Now Pentagon reporter Priya Sridhar, former Naval Lieutenant Commander Julie Rowland, who has served aboard the Lincoln, and Max Rose, who is back with us as well. Priya, explain what this wife told you.
Yeah, Katie, it's just really heartbreaking, and I think it highlights the extreme stress that these sailors are under on the USS Lincoln. Their deployment has been extended for a second time, and they feel like there's no end in sight. This young woman who I spoke to said that her husband has been expressing to her that he's been struggling with this deployment for several months, basically since the middle of the deployment. He works as an aircraft mechanic on the flight deck, really long hours. And she said that he notified his chain of command multiple times and went to the medical team saying that he was having suicidal ideations, but they were basically dismissed. Now, she learned from a member of her husband's squadron that someone had gone overboard last Monday, but she didn't actually get any confirmation from the Navy that it was, in fact, her husband until Friday, despite her attempts to reach out to him repeatedly. She also shared with me the last text message that he sent to her prior to him jumping off the ship. And I want to read part of it to you. He basically said, "I think the boat is finally getting to me, and I really don't think I can keep up my peace act anymore. You are right about it all not being okay. We were supposed to leave Fifth Fleet on July 15th, but then something had to come up, and my last hope of being home soon was gone. I'm really trying not to feel negative or hopeless, but between the Wi-Fi and not knowing when I will come home and not knowing what is happening back at home, it's really getting me. I don't think I can do another deployment after this, and I don't even know if I can finish this deployment." So just really heartbreaking details, Katie, and I think now there's a lot of questions to the Navy about how they handled this situation. I did reach out to them for comment, and they basically said that they can't comment on individual service members' medical records for privacy reasons, but they are disputing the fact that there's any sort of uptick in suicidal ideations on this specific ship, Katie.
The Journal is reporting, the Wall Street Journal, that the USS Washington is going to replace Lincoln as part of a previously scheduled rotation plan. This is an exclusive to them. They're citing U.S. officials. Priya, do you have anything on this? Would this be a normal replacement?
Yeah, Katie. So there are different ways for the public to sort of see where our aircraft carriers are around the world. And I did see that the Washington appeared to have been moving from where it's currently at in the Indo-PACOM, so sort of off of Asia, that part of the world earlier today. I did ask my sources. They couldn't confirm that it is this ship that's going to be relieving the Lincoln, but it seems like there's going to be a shifting of potentially several aircraft carriers to make sure that we still have a presence near the South China Sea, but that we can also provide relief to this Lincoln crew.
So, Julie, you didn't do a full deployment on the USS Lincoln, but you have lived aboard that ship. Tell me what it's like.
Well, I say that all aircraft carriers are pretty similar anyway. I did deployment workups on the Lincoln, so preparation for deploying. And then I also have deployed to the Persian Gulf with HSM 71, a helicopter squadron that's currently on board it. But it's 5,000 folks living on a piece of floating metal together. You don't have privacy. You have limited Wi-Fi, if any. you share your meals together, and you don't have to commute to work, but your life is work all the time. It's very hard. And you normally get a port call about once a month, some 30 to 45 days, but you're far away from your family, you're gone for long periods of time, 6 months, 7 months. And these can be extended, and we've seen long extensions, but typically not without port calls. So it's a big sacrifice to be away this long. It's incredibly grueling work, and it's already a sacrifice to do it. So any folks who say this is what people signed up for, I mean, they probably didn't sign up to do this without port calls, with inadequate food, mental health care services, and a lack of accountability with their families and indefinite extensions. So even if this is what they signed up for, it's terrible to hear without text messages. We're not going to have great retention. We're certainly going to have worse recruitment if this is what we're saying the deal is to join. And most importantly, those folks actively serving who are in theater right now are not going to be able to operate at their best. This is not lethality when we don't even have humanity to take care of our people out there.
Well, let's talk about the lethality here. The Pentagon, I mean, they're deployed in a time of war with Iran. I mean, they don't want to call it a war, but that's clearly what's happening. What about the Pentagon's own priorities here? Do they take precedent? Does the need to have a ship there take precedent over the mental health and well-being of those on board? Is there a way to have both?
Well, first, I think if they're not going to call it a war, then they don't get to play by the rules of a war. There are sacrifices people are maybe willing to make if there's an actual war going on, but that level of transparency needs to exist between the Pentagon and the American people. But then I think if you want to put the mission first, you have to prioritize your people as part of that. Really, I think you should lead with people first. If you lead mission first and you decide to forget the people, that's the lesson we learned in Iraq, is that you've got folks coming back that we've squeezed all of the juice out of them. So if you're not going to take care of your people, how many missions after this first mission can you get through? Maybe you get to the end of this mission, and then what's left of our capacity. If recruitment is going to plummet because of this, if retention is going to plummet, if the folks we currently have in aren't going to be up to future tasks, all of that spells readiness, that spells national security. So ultimately, even if you decide this is a worthwhile reason to be having American service members in these conditions, communicate that clearly to the American people, to Congress, but be transparent with the American people, be transparent with these folks and their families, which clearly isn't happening. Otherwise, you're not going to have a force that you need for the next conflict.
And what we're hearing from Pete Hegseth a lot of the time is how much stronger he's making the military. Sure. He's giving them testosterone.
Sure. Well, he wants to talk about testosterone. What he doesn't want to talk about is his failure to plan for a protracted conflict and war against Iran. You know, the reason why this is all happening right now is because they announced to the American people that this was going to be a 4 to 6 week conflict. And that's exactly what they planned for. They did not plan for this.
How do they not? I mean, we all learned the mission accomplished lesson.
Sure.
We've been talking about it for decades now. It's a lesson that Donald Trump ran on successfully both times or two of the times that he ran for president, not getting into foreign wars, not being as dumb as the other guys.
Right. You know, he ran as the person who was going to be opposed to all forever wars. And this is a broken promise. Just like he ran that he was going to address affordability, another broken promise. And so what ultimately has happened here is that for the entire term, they fired any general who would ever express an independent voice. They fired any general who would ever raise their hand and say, no, sir, actually diversity is lethality. Diversity is strength. No, sir, it doesn't make sense for us to alienate segments of the population, for us to focus on fringe cultural issues. Let's focus on continued unity. They would fire those people constantly. So over the course of time, it built up a culture where no one was willing to express their honest military analysis. And it has produced this protracted, unconstitutional, reckless conflict with no clear off-ramp that is wasting money overseas, that has led to the loss of life and has now produced this great tragedy aboard the Lincoln.
Yeah, it does not sound good. Max Rose, really good to have you. Julie Rowland, thank you so much for joining us today. We do hope to have you back. And Priya, always great reporting.